Hi, I'm Melissa Bill, and welcome to the Business Roundup, where we catch up with the movers and shakers in the business world. Today, joining me is Ivy Boyter. She's the founder of Throttle SEO. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Melissa. I'm happy to be here.
Now, before we start off, I'd like to kind of get to know each guest. And would you mind, kind of just giving a little background about you and the company and why you started the company?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you said, I'm Ivy Boyter. I started Full Throttle SEO out of for me, the need to build stronger relationships with clients and give me a lot more flexibility. I don't want to just hone in on SEO. So my background really comes from 13 years ago, I became a stay-at-home mom. uh, got really lost in that space of, who am I? And I decided to start a stay-at-home mom blog, which then blossomed into running an Etsy shop, doing all the digital marketing for both pieces, and really honing in on learning everything I could about how to get traffic and more revenue from Google. And then I decided I really liked that so much, so I went to work as a digital marketer for a local motorsports park here in Florida, and I helped them with their social media and started digging into their SEO and realized that that is really where I want to be. So I've been in an SEO agency setting now for about 6 years, and just kind of decided it was time to branch out and really get involved with clients on a much deeper level.
And I'm sure during that time you've seen it change tremendously, and AI has made its way into public relations, media relations, the news. Um, in what ways can you discuss how AI is being used in terms of SEO right now?
I think primarily we have to think of I think first and foremost, we're seeing that SEO has changed dramatically, in that it's no longer just about search engine optimization. It's now search everywhere optimization. Because AI is so prevalent in everything, we're looking at AI overviews and how that's changing the search landscape on its own. LLMs like ChatGPT and Perplexity and those things are continuing to change the search landscape because people are using Google and Bing less, and they're trying to get their answers in these LLMs now. And AI mode coming out from Google as well is continuing to change that.
And now, what are some of the issues with this? Like some people say, "Oh, this is great," but there's probably some drawbacks to this situation.
A lot of the drawbacks are, from what I'm seeing, people tend to think it's fast, it's easy, and I can rely on it. A lot of the mistakes that we make as humans relying on AI is it is fast and easy, but it's not always right. Um, so the challenges that we're experiencing right now are, yes, you can use AI as a tool, but if you're using it as a replacement for a human without the human oversight, you're going to end up with a lot of problems. Google may not rank you as well. You're going to lose trust. I cannot remember the study that I read, but there was a study where people are losing trust in businesses because of the overuse of AI. Uh, yeah, and then there's legal issues. I remember hearing recently that you can create an image in AI, but you don't actually have copyright over those images. So, there's a lot into this that we're just not fully prepared for right now.
So it's opening up a whole can of worms here with things that we're going to have to figure out moving forward. And another thing that you had kind of mentioned was, how is AI and LLMs forcing marketers to think more strategically now?
Yeah, so going back to the theme of SEO is dead, and I say SEO is not dead, it's evolving just like search landscape. Really what I am seeing is that if you are thinking of SEO in terms of just getting content on a page, you're already 10 years behind. That hasn't been the case for several years. So, really thinking much more technically, is your website technically sound? Um, is it structured very well? Because LLMs and AI is using a lot of really back end code type of stuff. So I'm seeing talks of using something called an LLMs.txt file to help LLMs read your website because they're not reading your in person website. Um, so, kind of strategically thinking about these very technical elements that SEO doesn't really do on its own. And I would also say in general, like just kind of thinking, continuing to think about that technically. As an example, I have a client's website who I cannot get to rank because the website is heavily relying on JavaScript. So, really, really deep diving into why you're not ranking, because if you're not ranking, you're probably not going to do well in any of the AI tools at this point.
That's something interesting. So when you have a client, well, first of all, do you work with clients in all different types of industries?
Yes, I do have a preference for automotive and motorsports. I do have kind of a background there, so I do have that preference. But honestly, I love learning everything there is that to learn. So I do enjoy the variety of industries that I get to work with.
And when you like go in and okay, someone like kind of brings you on, is one of the some of the like first things that you do when you're kind of looking at their website, you're looking at a lot of different aspects. What are some of those things that you're going to analyze when you are taking on a new client?
Yeah. So first, I think really just kind of from a really high level, can your website even be seen by Google? So really technical things like, is there a robots.txt? Do you have a site map available for search engines to crawl? Um, are they linked to your Google Analytics and your Google Search Console? Hopefully, that's not lost on us in this day and age. That those are really necessary tools for analytics. Um, and then from there, kind of if the website is ranking, what is it ranking for versus what are your competitors ranking for? And immediately finding those gaps in keywords that you can just plop into uh, their CMS to start building that foundation for SEO success.
And now when it comes because I know there's different websites where people can build a website. You have your WordPress, which has been around for a long time. You have I think GoDaddy. There's a couple different ones. Are there any things that you like recommend for companies? Are there ones that are better than others that you think when it comes to like the back end situation?
I think that's you'll probably hear any SEO person say the typical phrase, "It depends." I am a WordPress person, but I'm also not like my business is an e-commerce. So if you're an e-commerce business, you might look at things like Shopify, uh, Magento, those kinds of sites. So it kind of depends on really where you're at. There are a few that you could probably get started a little bit cheaper, maybe a little bit easier to use, but aren't as good for SEO. I would just say just getting a website started in one of the more widely recognized platforms is probably your best start.
And what are some of the other things that you recommend when you work? Let's say a company is kind of just starting off the ground. What are kind of the key elements they need to have? The website would be one. Anything else that you recommend that you're like saying this is what you need to kind of get up there in that search engine optimization situation?
Yeah, so I will say a lot of businesses like they want to compete nationally, and so I do often have to reel them in and say if you're especially if you're a new website, you need to build the brand awareness and your brand authority. Go ahead and create your Google business profile. That way, Google starts seeing it as a legitimate business. You can start attracting people in your own area, and it's much easier to rank in your own area than trying to compete against nationwide businesses that are doing well.
That's a good yeah, that's something I wouldn't have thought of. So kind of branching out locally and then beyond to kind of get your start.
Yes. And then reinforcing that on your website that you have a local presence. Even if you're a digital business like mine, I serve locally, but I can also serve nationally. I still have my address in my website.
That's true, and then they know you're somebody that you can meet in person if needed, gives you that more, like, in-person type of feel, and that was, like, another thing I wanted to talk about because in public relations, media relations, we were speaking before the call that, even with AI, one of the keys is really getting to know your client. Why do you feel that's important? Like, with your company, what are some of your things as far as your goals with your clients?
So what I've learned over the 13 years that I've been in digital marketing and the 6 years working in an agency setting is that relationships matter a lot, because the more I know and can collaborate with you, the better we can align your SEO strategy or any of your digital marketing strategy. Um, I also will say, like, for me, although I'm primarily SEO, I want to be able to provide the value in that if I see an opportunity for email marketing or paid ads that I really think may help, I'm not going to know if that's a valuable upsell or opportunity for you if we haven't been having really serious conversations about your business and what works and what doesn't, especially when it comes to what's most important at this moment. Because I can set a strategy for 3 or 6 months, but if you tell me, hey, in 3 months, I have XYZ new product coming out, I can plan for that. If we don't have this really strong relationship, I can't plan for those things, and then it's really difficult to pivot.
So it's building that you might have, like, where you're gonna kinda regroup a couple months down the road or every month and kinda see where the focus should be for that time period, and I'm sure it's different for whatever type of client you're working with.
Yeah, absolutely. And it definitely helps, if we're on a monthly call or even a biweekly call, it definitely helps to go over some of the data from the work that we've been doing to say this did or didn't work. What are the opportunities that we have to fix it or make a change to test something? I think that really collaborative relationship allows us to kind of think outside the box sometimes to give us new ideas.
And where do you think, SEO is gonna go in the future? Like, what are some trends that you think are gonna we're gonna see?
That's really difficult. Like I hope that we see less reliance on on trusting blindly. Um, I also think that, especially from my end, having that cautious optimism, um, to kind of say I can use it to a degree. So in my case, I use it for more for brainstorming and helping me to find content gaps between your website versus your competitors. Um, but it's really hard to say how things are gonna change because, like I said, Google has just dropped their AI mode. So again, changing the search landscape. So I really just think that at this point, we're gonna be doing an awful lot of testing and experimentation to keep up with the high level of growth and change in the industry.
And now you mentioned you service nationally. Is it internationally, nationally, or
So right now, really, my focus is on the Jacksonville area or Florida. Again, I'm a new business, so I know my role. So I'm happy to stay within the local boundaries, but I absolutely do love serving national businesses. I have some experience in international SEO. It is a little bit more complicated. Um, I'm always up for the challenge.
and then what are some of the services that you offer just for people who wanna look and maybe find out more?
Yeah, so I actually have a few ways that you can work with me. Primarily, I like to work in a monthly, basically consultant type role. I will provide deliverables in that align with SEO strategy, the best practices, and to help kind of fill gaps where maybe your business doesn't have the team or the bandwidth to do it. I also offer a really comprehensive SEO audit, and this is more for teams that you have content writers, you have developers, you just need the strategy and the guidance and the data to tell you what to focus on.
Kind of, you need like a roadmap because maybe what you're doing is not really working out. So you kind of go in there and tell them what they can do strategically to make it better. And what would be the best way for them to contact you and find out more about the company?
Just go to my website at fullthrottleseo.com. I have a contact button there. You can call me. Also, hit me up on LinkedIn at Ivy Boyter. I'm always happy to answer questions and just have general chats about your business.
Okay, perfect. Well, I really appreciate you joining us today and thank you very much. And hopefully, like I said, maybe down the road, have you back on. We can talk about some of the projects that you're working on and different things that are happening.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Melissa.
Hi, thank you for joining us for another episode of the Business Roundup. If you haven't already, please subscribe or follow us on Instagram or YouTube. Also, feel free to leave comments below on topics you'd like us to cover. Until next time, I'm Melissa Bell.